Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle Petacola, and I'm the founder of Secrets of Life and Death and Second Chance Secrets. I want to be honest with you, I am not a health practitioner. I am a psychosocial analyst, I have a PhD in sociology and psychology, and I have been trained in psychosomatics. And in the course of working with people around grief and loss, and through my own life journey, I have learned a lot about the body. In fact, my three main keys to success in health, wealth, and love is the body, the mind, and the community. Well, and also your own brilliance. Because I believe that we are spiritual beings who have come into this three-dimensional universe, and that we navigate through this universe in these bodies. And I felt that way for a very long time. Now, that may have something to do with the fact that I didn't hang out in my body for a long time, but I did take care of it. I was always very, very concerned about eating well. So why is it so important for us to pay attention to our bodies? Well, I've already mentioned it, right? We navigate this planet with these bodies, and they are, I like to call them our buddy. I find that if I see my body as separate from the spiritual being that resides inside, that I can take more responsibility for it. Because if you don't feel like you're worthy, and many of us have been exposed to that particular poison, you might not take care of your body. You might connect it and try and punish it. And there have been plenty of people that I have worked with that have had issues around their body and around their self-worth, around parents who made them feel less than enough. And oftentimes that is associated with body image. And we have a culture that is crazy about body image. So I'm going to put a little political plug in here. And my heart goes out to my brothers and sisters who are persons of color. I can't begin to imagine what it is like to live in a society which sees the color of your skin as unacceptable. How disempowering is that? I mean, you can't even, there's no way you can change that. Of course, the good news is that maybe you don't have to feel guilty about that, whereas if, say, you're a little overweight or you're a lot overweight, there is so much judgment. You need to understand a little bit about your body so that you can get out of that habit of hating yourself. I think I mentioned just in my post over in my regular group, my regular personal page, that the self-hate is the fuel, the inciting of a lot of violence. Because basically when we hate ourselves, we have two ways to go. We either internalize it and damage ourselves, or we externalize it and blame other people. And rather than allow ourselves to realize how much we hate ourselves, we project it out on other people. And our own shadow of self-hate is projected on somebody else. Why do I tell you this? Because that is the underlying problem. And if our solution is just to lock those people away, if our solution is to diet ourselves to craziness, if our solution is to become workaholics so that we don't experience what's going on in us, we're never going to solve the problem. So I invite you to listen to me today and find out a little bit more about your body. Beginning with the question, do you love your body? Or do you have judgments? So you might want to know why you need to listen to me. I mean, after all, I already told you that I'm a psychosocial analyst. I do have training in psychosomatics. So that's part of it. I understand what your body is trying to tell you when it acts out in specific ways. But also, I have been a buddy to my body for a long time. As I mentioned, I really felt the need to take care of this body from a very early age in my life. Even though I wanted to totally shut down any feelings that I had, but I still wanted to take good care of it. I somehow intuited it that it was really important to take care of this body, that I would do better, I would be able to get more things done, I would be able to fulfill my spiritual purpose, although I gotta tell you, I was not thinking about that. But at the age of 18, I started long distance running because my boyfriend, who later became my first husband at the time, said that you would actually live longer if you ran. And so for 15 years, I was a long distance runner. I ran 3 marathons. I was listed in Runner's World magazine many, many years ago as one of the top 100 women marathon runners. Now, I would not even make the top 500 now, I'm sure. However, it was my step into really taking care of my body. I got involved in organic gardening. I really was interested in my body. And then later, I actually sold a nutritional supplement for a number of years and did a lot of study about the way in which the body functions. So I've been interested in the body for a long time. Oh, and interesting about the long distance running, it actually was a way of avoiding dealing with my body. I could indulge in all my favorite decadent foods because I could run it off. It was a little bit like anorexia, bulimia, right? Where you kind of eat and purge, but you purge in a somewhat healthy way. I was telling my ex-husband recently that it's not a curable. To be a fitness fanatic is not enough. You actually have to do the research to find out how to take care of your body. That running alone is not enough. And it's an ongoing project, I have to tell you, because there's always new information out there about what works and doesn't work. So lately I've been on a modified keto diet because my father died from Alzheimer's. And it's really important to take care of your brain. For me to take care of my brain at any rate. And one of the problems I was dealing with was lack of sleep. I would only sleep around 5 hours a night. And there are a lot of studies that show a high correlation between the amount of sleep you have and Alzheimer's. That is, the less sleep, the higher the risk. And Alzheimer's is, in terms of incidence, is going through the roof. Now maybe they're just diagnosing it more often. Anyway, I changed my diet because, and it has helped me. I actually do sleep way better and my body is in better shape. But then there are other things that we have to balance out, like how much potassium do you have and how much of this and that. And the problem is that we live in a culture that encourages us to indulge. We live in a culture that does not require us to go hungry. And so our bodies are always eating all the time. And if you hate yourself, one of the things that you do, or one of the things that self-haters do, is insulate themselves from those feelings. And that's where the addictive patterns come from, such as workaholism, which of course is terrible for your body because you push yourself until you exhaust yourself until you get sick. And another is, do they have foodaholism? Where you eat too much. In psychosomatics, we call fat desensitized tissue. That people put on fat to make themselves protected, to protect themselves from their feelings. And also, food is very comforting. We associate it with our mothers, right? And so it's really nice to eat. It makes us feel good. Not to mention that chemically, the foods will also make you feel good. They are designed, or certain foods like sugar will stimulate the dopamine drug in your body. And so you get addicted. You can get addicted to sugar just like you could get addicted to cocaine. And on top of that, we have a food industry that designs food to encourage us to eat more. That's why the United States of America has the worst record for health of all the advanced Western countries. That's it. We're at the bottom. Even though we spend more dollars for our health than any of those other countries, we are at the bottom. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that, although I've certainly read, and it's very interesting, and there's always this jockeying for who controls the reality of what we believe in. But here's what I do know. I do know that loving your body is the first step to healing your body. Accepting where you are right now is essential to change. Because as long as you are hating, you are sending that message to your body. And as long as you call yourself names like I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny, or my breasts are too small, your body is going to listen. Hi, thank you for joining. Your body's going to listen, we're talking about bodies, to everything you think and say. So you really have to watch about what you think and what you say. There may be some healing that you need to do. I have found in myself that it is very difficult to change my mind, this chatterbox up here, if I haven't dealt with the emotional energy underneath. I can try and force it, but underneath is that little voice of doubt, that little voice of judgment. That's the kind of work I do. I empower people, women, leaders, change makers, coaches, healers, to love themselves, to heal the emotional wounds that convince them that they were not good enough. And by the way, it's not your fault. We were born into these bodies when they were little tiny babies, and we were really, really vulnerable. And how our parents dealt with us, how they responded to us, had a huge impact. Those first 3 years to 5 years are very, very impactful, because at that point we're developing our brains. And if we feel unsafe, if we feel threatened, we develop patterns of behavior that keep us safe. And those are the patterns that run amok when we get older, such as eating. I'm reminded of the film Harold and Maude. Do you know that movie? It was about this young man, a young boy, who came from a very rich family, but he had an obsession with death. And he had an obsession with death because the only time his mother ever gave him any love and attention was when he was near dying. And so he kept on trying to reproduce that. We all have a similar scenario. We find a way of getting our parents' attention, and then we become habituated to that pattern. So in my own life, I was a pleaser, and it worked really well. Unfortunately, these patterns often work well for a very, very long time, and then they don't. So the eating pattern, if your parents or your mother always handled upset with food, you could develop a really bad habit of soothing yourself through eating food. Sometimes we put on extra weight because we don't feel safe. And so it's a protection. I've noticed among a number of women that I knew who were abused as children, that they carry a lot of extra weight. Maybe they feel a little bit larger and more protected, and also they're less likely to get harassed. And so that makes them feel safe. But in the long run, it's not good for your body. I don't know about you, but I'm running out of time. So I want to take as good care of my body as I can so that I have enough time to finish all the projects that I want to finish. So let's see, what have I not talked about? I've talked about family, that your family is often the source of your attitude towards yourself. I remember a fellow coach of mine talking about how much she hated herself. And then she was in a relationship with a man, and she told him how terrible he was. And then it dawned on her that she was projecting her self-loathing on him. And how often do we do that? The people that we hate the most, the people that we project our shadow on, it's really our shadow. But we're afraid to look at it. So that's another story, and we could talk about that another time, the shadow. But that's what happens. We either beat ourselves up or we project our hatred of ourselves on somebody else. I'm saying, let's stop that. Let's start loving our bodies right now. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, you have to come up with a very good reason for why you want to do that. For me, brain health. I don't want to die from Alzheimer's. It was really, really upsetting to see my father, who was a brilliant man, be reduced to gibberish and a piece of chocolate. It was very, very disturbing. And to watch my mother watch him have that happen. And that has been my powerful motivator. What's your motivator for taking care of your body? Why do you want to have a good, healthy body? Now, the other reason, of course, another reason is that you have more energy. Now, that's not been my problem. I came out of the womb with so much energy that I don't drink coffee because it makes me hyper. So that's not my motivation. My motivation is to keep my brain functioning. I do have some issues about weight. I don't know that any of us gets through this life without issues about weight. Even the thinnest people have issues about weight. Our culture is obsessed, especially for poor women. I'm sorry, it's terrible. What was the ideal woman? Barbie, who was as skinny as a rail. And we are exposed to that cultural norm about what is acceptable. And it's not realistic. It's not realistic. And so we are all these women are trying to meet that ideal. Particularly if they have parents who told them that they're not good enough. Parents are very powerful. And I'm not blaming parents, because chances are they got the same message from their parents or a similar message. I know my mother had big issues around weight. And when she died, she weighed 106 pounds. Well, probably even less by the time she died. And she was a 5'7" woman. That's thin. I know, I once went down to 111 pounds after my marriage broke up. By the way, great way to lose weight, but it doesn't stay off. And what I noticed was that when you get that low in weight, you actually lose your appetite. And if you have been given a lot of messages about your weight and about your body, it's very intoxicating not to feel a desire for food. However, it's a dangerous way to go, and I don't recommend it, and that's part of the problem that anorexics have. It gives them a sense of false empowerment. So be aware of that The better way is to just love who you are right here, right now. So let's see, I talked about you need a good reason for why you want to take care of your body. I think getting through this three-dimensional world with as long and as healthy as I can is a good enough reason as any. Number two, you need goals. You need to set goals that are realizable, that are measurable, that are doable. And you also need to have fun at it. And you need to celebrate. So those are all the things that you have to bring into it in order to change. And from my experience, you may have to deal with some emotional resistance, some hesitation about changing that pattern. It's hard. One of the first things you have to do is you have to stop yourself when you have that impulse to eat, that impulse to soothe. And here's the other problem. We are somewhat victims of our own biology. When we get stressed, when we get fearful, it's also a biological response to eat. I mean, you can see it in other animals. When they get stressed, they eat. So this is wired into our system. That's not an easy way to go, is it? Okay, so where am I? So in changing your body and creating your plans, you have to work on four things. You need to work on exercise. Don't think that you can change your condition without exercise. These bodies actually need exercise. The immune system, the lymph system, doesn't even move unless you exercise. So get out of that computer chair and get out and walk. Do some yoga. Move those muscles. Your body will love you for it. At first it might not. At first it might be in pain about it if you haven't done it for a long time. So go slowly. Savor it. Allow yourself to experience the pleasure of moving. So you might even start with slow movement. And if you want to know more, please reach out to me. Send me a message. Post in comment section. Go to my website and engage. Certainly join this Facebook group so that you can join me for other trainings like this. So I said exercise. 2 is fuel. You need to look at what your diet is. I told you that I changed my diet recently. I'm on a modified keto diet. I don't eat for between 15 and 16 hours between night and morning. It has greatly improved my ability to sleep. I lost a bunch of weight, some of which has come back. And I do eat more fruit than I did in the beginning. I think there are nutrients that you cannot get out of the keto diet. I'm still developing that. I don't have the answer for everyone. If you have a major health issue, I'm not your person. You need to go to somebody who really has the knowledge about the body, maybe a naturopath or a nutritional consultant. That's not me. I help you with the emotional factors. I help you with the motivation. I help you to love yourself, because I don't believe you can just push yourself through. You really need to accept who you are first. And that will help, because then your body will get on board. Okay, so exercise, fuel, emotions. I talked to you about emotions. You need to release the emotions associated with your love or hate of your body. If you're hating your body, you may need to look at that. And that's one of the things I also do. I call myself a body listener. I help people to go inside, to listen to what the body has to say. It's pretty magical. Your body has a vocabulary in terms of pain and pleasure, but it also has access to your brain. And so if you really, really, really listen to your body, It will give you the answers, but it takes focus. And that's what I do. I teach my clients how to do that. So also, and finally, you need to get the mind on board. You need to have a really compelling motivation for why you're doing it. And you need to work on the thoughts that you bring into the process. What are you telling yourself? Are you beating yourself up if you maybe miss your exercise routine in the morning? Are you reinforcing yourself? What are the little voices, the little gremlins in your head telling you about, oh, you can't do this, you're too fat, you're too dumpy, you can't change? Yeah, you really want to change that voice. However, what I have found is that if you just kind of like try to hold it down, it'll pop up again. You need to let this little gremlin get its words out, and then you need to look at the words, put it out there, and then look at them and see whether or not they fit with you anymore. I think I've run out of things to say. I'm sure there's more. I'm thinking about maybe doing a workshop on body love. Post in the comment section if you think you might be interested in something like that. So I sort of get my finger on the pulse of what my group is doing out there and what they would be interested in. Let me see if I have any final comments. Loving yourself, who you are, right here, right now. And if you can't, let's have a conversation. See what's stopping you. That's it for today. Be brilliant, and bye for now.